the Countryside Podcasts with Chris Skinner.
Hello, Rat. Hello.
Good. Right, I'll leave that. Oh, you're just going to put yourself back in.
He quite likes it in there.
That's all right, and that's his kennel.
Welcome to High Ash Farm. I've come to see Chris Skinner once again for a Christmas edition of the Countryside Podcast. Only saying, Chris, it's the Christmas edition because that's where we are, isn't it? Just a few days away.
Yes, it's creeping up now. It's the shortest day is going to be on Saturday the 21st, or the longest night, whichever way you like to look at it. And I thought we'd do something slightly different on this week's Countryside Podcast. Because on the 21st I hope to do as a recording, which will be a special treat for us later on. And I'm starting this one off on a particular site, right in the centre of the farmyard. I can see a tractor, unfortunately, now going to come up and roar past us. But you can see right beside us there's a slight depression in the farmyard here. And
little crater, really.
Yes, it is. It's the site of a really deep well, and that used to supply water to the farmhouse and all the farm buildings. Their tractor's just gone past. It's always busy in the middle of the farm.
This is a working farm.
It absolutely is. So that's the depression. The well got filled in for safety reasons way back about 30 years ago now. But around the well stood something really interesting, and it's appropriate for the rest of the podcast we're going to do because there was a windmill here, and it's marked on the OS map as well. It says wind pump, and it went up about 40 feet. It had sails at the top. It was installed by Panks, who's a company still in the centre of Norwich. They're still existing, and they put the whole infrastructure in the mid-1930s, and that's before my parents came to High Ash Farm.
So it wasn't a masonry, old-fashioned one?
It was one of the newer ones. It was a galvanised, rather like the modern electricity pylons that you see today, but nowhere near as tall as that. And it's quite exposed all around us, and it worked really well. And it supplied electricity to all the buildings which stood round us, old clay block barns. We were grinding, even when my father came, we were grinding all the food for the cattle, a huge amount of work. So it would supply electricity to the buildings. But in the evening, my father would go in the little shed right beside where the windmill is and turn a switch, and it would send electricity to the farmhouse. So my mum only had lights in the evening and only able to cook with her new electric cooker back then, but it was different electricity to what you think. It was DC, first of all, direct current, and it was 110 volts, not the current 240, which is our current mains electric supply. So that was what I was brought up with to start with, and then we had quite a large gale. In fact, it caused a North Sea coastal flooding. It was in 1953, and sadly it took the windmill over right across the farmyard, and a local scrap company came out quite quickly. They were called Archie Kings, quite a famous name back then for scrap metal in the post-war years, and they cut it all up and took it away. And at that point the farm then went on to mains electricity, which was 240 volts. My mum was quite pleased about this arrangement.
You don't think your father was tempted to rebuild?
No, for some reason not, because the electricity supplied was quite reliable. Remember, on still days you couldn't get any electricity, and that was the problem. There wasn't solar power as such then. But that sort of set me thinking about renewable energy here at the farm, which we haven't really done much of at the moment. And so in a little while I'm going to take you in the truck, and we're going to go down to South Norfolk, where there's a massive solar farm planned, and it's called the East Pye Solar Farm. It's called East Pye because Pye is the old name for the Ipswich Road, currently the A140, which headed south, and it's a Roman road, and it was called the Pye. So it's everything to the east of that, and we're going to visit the site and discover a little bit more about renewable energy. But as I stand here with, new idea is solar panels, and it's a controversial idea to cover countryside, particularly farmland, with solar panels. So as I look round, I'm trying to find a way of producing electricity here which will feed into the grid. And of course we've got a very large roof space right beside us, the modern sort of Dutch barn and grain store. The roofs face almost due south, they're perfect. An old stable block there, again facing due south.
You wouldn't want to cover up those pan tiles though,
no, that's the whole thing, isn't it? But we've got to start to find the balance between sort of looking at it aesthetically to see, do you want to see the pan tiles or do you want to see good farmland covered up with solar panels? There starts to be this dilemma that goes on, and I've got an even newer stable block here right behind us. Again, perfect direction for the solar panels to fit on top. I've already done a double roof on it for the swallows, so a third one with solar panels on the top absolutely wouldn't be amiss. And the strange thing is my son has built a house quite close to where we're standing, and he has 9 kilowatts of electric capacity on his roof as solar panels, and he's also storing the electricity in lithium batteries. So that's the other thing, when you have a sunny day but you want to use electricity in the hours of darkness perhaps, he has the option of doing that, and he can also charge his electric car with it. So you start to have these sort of questions arising in your head. Can everybody have a solar panel on their roof and save the farmland? And that's why I'm going to pop you in the truck shortly, and we're going to go down and see one of these, what you can only call an industrial site, and we'll try and explore some of the arguments in a fair way, because I can see perfectly that we need to cut down on fossil fuel use, and that's where the dilemma comes in. You have one or the other, or both, and we'll try and sort of look at it and ask some of the questions. But there's lots of opportunity here to produce energy, particularly for the lighting at night, for the farmyard, for security, for all the electricity we use every day here at the farm. And it would be lovely to have homegrown electricity, if you like, and just an exciting era that we're going through. But not to forget that company called Panks, who installed an electric generating windmill which also pumped the water from the well. And that's the important thing. But that's before we had mains water at the farm, and it's like in my lifetime, so it's not long ago.
You could always phone them up and get them to build one again.
Yes,
they're still going.
Yes, they certainly are.
Higham Street.
Yeah, exactly where it is, in the middle of Norwich, and really well long established company. And it was, I can still remember the plaques on the motor, the generator, which the wind turbine powered, installed by Panks of Norwich. There we are, I can memorise the little plaque. And it was a huge electric motor, nothing like the small ones we have today. Come on, let's hop in the truck.
We'll head off, yeah?
Yep, off we go.
We've been in the car for 5 or 10 minutes, and it's a beautiful day, sunshine here, and in front of us some lovely South Norfolk countryside.
Yes, Matthew, absolutely beautiful. A whole patchwork quilt of proper English countryside, you could say, with areas of woodland, old mature hedges, and it's been like that for centuries, and it's just an exquisite area. But you can notice it's quite hilly here. We're right by the brook to Shopsome road here, and so we've got a car just going past us, and it's just stunningly beautiful. That's the only way to describe it. A lot of history here, And the whole of this site, we're kind of in the middle of the development from the Ipswich Road, which is about 5 miles away to our west, and then the Bungay Road, which is the 1332 to our east, and we're roughly in the middle of the planned solar park. And so if you travel down into South Norfolk, you can't fail but to see the sort of Brook says no to East Pye Solar, Wootton says no to East Pye Solar.
There's a big 20-foot sign here as
And
well, isn't
somebody, a local farmer, has decided to build what one of the solar panels will look like, and it is the height of a double-decker bus. And that's the problem of it, and also it's the angle that will catch the most of the sun. So the whole of everything in front of us is going to be, it's a proposal at the moment. The consultation finishes about December 2025, and then it'll go to government planning. But the problem is, plans like this can leapfrog local opinion and even council opinion as well, because it's called national infrastructure, and it has its own kind of rules, if you like. So local opposition may not have much effect on it, and that's the whole problem here, because we have some historical landscape here. But my interest is as a farmer, and when I started farming properly, I just left college in 1971. The government brought out a white paper, it was called, quite an important document, which I did read, and it was called Food from Our Own Resources. And as an island, we still don't produce all the food that we eat. So food production is hugely important, and this is really fertile soil. We're on what's called the Norfolk Claylands where we're standing. And when I used to plough the clay at High Ash Farm,
Rabbits
there, yes, there's all sorts of wildlife going here. It's such a stunning sight. Look, there's a hare going down the field there in front of us.
This is a field that, under these proposals, would be full of these very large structures.
And so that's the whole point of it. Not only does it destroy the farmland habitat, and it's something we desperately need. So you start to have this balance between food production, which is crucial. Remember, we're hardly much more than 50% self-sufficient in food, probably about 60%. Our population's increasing. We're way past 60 million, in 70 million people in the UK now, and that requires a lot of food. Climate's changing, Matthew, without doubt now. I've noticed in the last 20 or so years. This year, I think if I'd have grown arable crops in 2025, my pockets would be hanging out, and I'd technically be bankrupt.
Well, it was the sunniest year on record, wasn't it? Which is good from one point of view.
It was, and it would certainly be good for these solar panels. They generate a lot of electricity, and that's what I mean. This huge balance between what we should be doing, maybe using brownfield sites, maybe all new houses should have solar panels on their roofs. I mean, how do we do it? Do you do it in piecemeal size so that individual people are responsible perhaps for generating some of their own electricity? But I do realise the need to move away from fossil fuels.
But these giant panels, Chris, wouldn't just fill this field we're in front of now, which is a large field. It'd be this field, lots of fields around here. It's over a vast area.
It is. As I said, it's more than 10 kilometres from the west side of the proposal, right by where the old Ipswich Road, that was called the Pye Road, is, right across this tract. And it's about a mile wide, or just under in most places, but absolutely astonishing. It's going to change what's beautiful Norfolk landscape into an industrial park, and completely different.
And the wildlife, they are bound to suffer, because I mean, we've just driven down a very small lane, a little
Market Lane it was.
We drove, and there's a hedge on either side.
Yes.
And these are ancient habitats.
That's right, and some of those hedges all through the scheme have to come out to accommodate the large lorries that need to bring the transformers, and there's also quite a large site right on the west side where battery storage will be. That's about 10 hectares, 25 acres, and there's over 1,000 hectares in this planning application, well over that, probably about 1,200 hectares. A hectare's 2.5 acres, so you can see the scale of it, and it's a broad tract of just industrial pollution is all you can call it. The thing is, it only lasts about 20 years, the solar panels, so halfway through, because the proposed life of the farms to be developed here would be 40 years. And I honestly, as a farmer, you can't blame farmers. You know, we're now being saddled with inheritance tax, but the rate of payment for the solar farms are about £1,000 per acre per year. So it's a really good income, and you don't have to then farm it. So I can see more elderly farmers or more progressive thinking farmers thinking, right, this is quite a good bet to do. And remember, the inheritance tax is set at about 20% of the value of your land. So in 2 years, rent from the solar farms, you will have covered entirely your in obligations for inheritance tax. So there's a huge temptation for farmers to say yes to these schemes. Not all farmers in the corridor that goes from east to west, that 10 kilometres long, have said yes to it, and lots of local people who live in these beautiful South Norfolk villages are hugely against it because there's little or no benefit to them. In fact, you know, public footpaths, walking past solar panels, they will be lit at night, there's security fencing around them, and it's basically just hard-nosed industry in something which is one of the jewels of the, you know, I'm almost in tears about it, but there's very little we can do because I said these schemes leapfrog normal planning applications.
Well, I think a lot of people still feel that they can do something about it in terms of protesting.
Yes.
Because this would be such a big change.
Yes, there's plants and animals here which you can't really find anywhere else because the habitat's unique with the old hedgerows. It's the soil type, the Norfolk clay lands, and it gives rise to all sorts of different species right through to the eastern side near Woodcock Wood. There's some barbastelle bats there. We have white-clawed crayfish in the parts of the Tass right on the western side of it, and in between a sandwich of huge biodiversity, all different plants supporting different creatures, and it's just bonkers. It's criminal to do this. When I look across here, it's beautiful landscape. I just can't find the words. So it just says behind us this big sign. You can see it yourself. We're on the road between Shopsham and Brook, two lovely South Norfolk villages, and there's this solar panel. The actual size of it is astonishing, and there's tens of thousands of them. Yes, we need the power and the electricity, but
is this the right way to do
no,
it? No,
exactly. That is the whole question of it.
And how energy intensive is it to have a solar farm? The panels have to be built every 20 years?
Yes, they've got to be renewed, and so then you've got to recycle the old ones, and that's the whole problem. It's 40 years is a long, long time, but our population keeps on increasing, and more traffic on the roads, of course, but some of the hedges have to come out to bring the transformers out, and some of them weigh over 100 tonnes, and they're on huge long vehicles. So, you know, on some of the roads you have to take the hedges out to get the vehicles down. So it's not just desecration of the arable fields, it's the lovely habitats beside them. We all are now beginning to realise how important hedgerows are as wildlife corridors, habitats, joining the woodlands over there, which we can see they're all joined together with these wonderful old Norfolk hedgerows in between them.
And food could be grown here.
Yes, this is the whole thing.
Food that would save fossil fuels in the long run.
Yes, yep, and if we learn to change our diet a bit and eat more more cereal based, then we can probably produce much more of that percentage of food which we need in our country. It's just modifying things just slightly in order to create a big change, and it is possible to do it. And there we are. I'm just speechless, really. I knew this was happening, but and I didn't really want to do it right at the end of the year, but now's the opportunity time. This is the consultation period for the scheme. It will now go to planning at a very, very high level, and it's called critical infrastructure for the country, so it's really difficult to argue against it.
Chris, the sound of some of your favourite birds.
Matthew, it's one of the success stories for conservation at High Ash Farm. The house sparrows, one of those red list species, declined by 50% or more, and we have over 100 here. It's a huge smile on my face.
Chattering sparrows, just one of the sounds that you can hear on the High Ash Farm podcast. But we need a favour.
Yes, we do. We're asking for donations and any help that you can give to help keep the podcast going.
You can make a monthly or just a one-off payment. highashfarm.com/podcast.
Well done, Matthew.
I don't really want to say this, but let's enjoy this landscape while we've still got it, because
Yes.
once it's gone...
Yes. Oh, there's a song like that somewhere. Yeah, when it's gone, it's gone. And they put the trees in a tree museum. Give me the birds and the bees are some of the lines of it.
Joni Mitchell.
Exactly that. And it is very relevant today than the day it was sung, so it's perfect. It just brings it all to mind, but it's beautiful. Look behind us, lovely old farmhouse, sheep grazing on the paddock in front of it, and that's exactly what this land should be used for. It's a national gem.
We are back at High Ash Farm. Home is where the heart is, Chris.
Yes, we're back, Matthew. And we've got some questions.
Yeah, I mean, still to come, we're going to have Chris's special recording.
I hope to do that right at the end of this week, so sort of coincide with the shortest day. So there we are.
Here's some emails. Angela Newhouse, hello to you. She sent us a photograph. Think these are early shoots of bluebells in a sheltered part of my garden under a horse chestnut. Never seen them in December before.
There
we are.
And a fantastic picture. They're up about 50 millimetres high, a good 2 inches, because though you might have a muntjac deer or a rabbit in the garden as well. It's had a little scrunch of one of the freshly emerged shoots, and it's not surprising at all. Remember, they're like underground storage units for their energy in the form of the bulb, which they stored last sort of late spring and through the summer before the leaves all died down, and so they're ready to go from the word go, if you like, and so it's not unusual to see them up at this time of the year. Perhaps a little bit early, but well done anyway. That's a superb picture there that you've sent us.
Is that a robin telling us all?
Yes, it is. Yes, robins are setting up their territories now.
We've got some horses coming past in a second as well.
Yes. So busy place, that's Farmyard.
Andy Olcott lives in a suburb of Chicago called Glenview in the state of Illinois. He says, "Hi Chris, I love the podcast all the way from the US. I listened to as many BBC podcasts as I could and listen every Sunday for your new ones as well. I read a beaver made its way to Norfolk by his own little self. How wonderful. Are you thinking of introducing beavers to High Ash Farm?"
Oh, I'd love to, but you need the right habitat for beavers. Sort of wet valleys with streams and rivulets is the perfect habitat for them. And we don't really have too much of that at High Ash Farm. Obviously, high gives the game away. We're pretty high up, one of the third highest spots of the county of Norfolk where we are. But certainly in Norfolk, there are some some fantastic habitats for beavers to thrive, particularly down Bungay, round the South Norfolk area, where the River Waveney curls round there. It's a good habitat for otters and also suitable habitat for beavers. And a year or so ago, we visited Wheat Fen, sort of on the River Yare, not far from the farm here, and that was also a fantastic habitat for beavers. That'd be like their second home to come there. Remember, they were native to the UK centuries ago, and we really hunted most of them to extinction.
This beaver Andy has read about at Pensthorpe near Fakenham. It's probably an escapee from an official release that was taking place somewhere in West Norfolk.
Yes, that's possible. It's quite unusual for suddenly an individual to appear in a location where there hasn't been beavers before. And I can remember, it was about 20 years ago now, that on the southern bypass on Norwich, a badger got killed, and I collected it and took it to Norwich Castle Museum. And when I laid it down, they were going to do an autopsy on it. Everybody was absolutely stunned to see that there was a tattoo on the inside of the badger's thigh, and it had come from South Suffolk, and it had made that journey all that way through the river system itself, following up the canals and things on the edge of the banks, and they'd worked out the route it had taken, but there were captive releases down there, but there wasn't in Norfolk at the time, so that one created the news as well.
And Andy in Chicago says, I listened to the Archers. He says they've just released some beavers into a rewilding project there at Ambridge.
Yes, they certainly have. Yes, so rewilding is one of the key words at the moment. It's to recreate the habitats that were lost centuries ago, and right up until the 1970s, when a lot of hedge grubbing happened right here in the county of Norfolk. And we're now doing, they say life goes in big circles sometimes, and we're now busy reinstating all that habitat was lost years ago.
I wonder if Walter Gabriel is still in the Archers.
Oh, I doubt it. Look, I can still remember that.
He did speak like that.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Thank you for all the wonderful Christmas cards.
Yes.
It's terrific to receive them.
Yes, look here, and there's one here. It's Chris and Matthew. Let me just open this one and see where that's from. It came in a package with some other gifts, including a lead for Rat. And let's just see. Merry Christmas. Who's this one from? From Tasman, Dave, Jess, all the way from Tasmania.
Oh, thank you, Tamsin. That's lovely.
Yeah.
Best wishes for Christmas and the New Year. There's a lovely note there as well. And thanks to everyone else who sent us a card. But Tamsin, she's a very naughty lady. She's sent us some gifts.
She has.
Here we are.
And I'm going to open mine. I'll keep that for Christmas Day. And it looks as though you've got one as well.
I'm going to open it.
Gudgin can resist anything but temptation.
Oh, it's a book.
Oh, well done. Look at this.
Oh, it's from Australia.
Growing grapes might be fun. Very, very topical.
This is what I've always gone on about, doesn't it? That you ought to give over some of your acreage to winemaking.
Yeah, it was probably here talking about things going in circles. We have a shrewd feeling now that the Romans might have grown grapes here, but absolutely fantastic. So it's by Deirdre Macken, picture of sheep grazing in amongst the vines down there. Very appropriate for Matthew.
How we made a vineyard out of a junkyard. Oh, Tamsin, that's lovely.
Yes,
that really
all
is
the
lovely.
way from Tasmania by post. Tamsin, you're a naughty, naughty girl, but we love it to bits to receive correspondence like that. And the podcast surprises us every week, correspondence from all over the world. We love talking about the countryside. It's our favourite thing to do. Matthew pops out to the farm here, and we share what we can each week, which we've done for getting on for a couple of years now, with everybody who cares to listen. It's delightful.
To all our listeners, have a very Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Stay tuned, though. Chris is on a mission.
Good evening, everybody. It's 4:30. It's the 20th of December. And I'm sitting in the east end of Woodcock Wood a newly planted area of woodland here at High Ash Farm. Trees are about 20 years old and about 20 feet tall. And at this time of the year, the local corvids have chosen it just temporarily as their winter roost site. Tonight at midnight is a very special day here at the farm. The Druids will be meeting, as they have done here for over 25 years. They used to come and worship a fabulous oak tree here at the farm called the Caister Oak. It was Norfolk's Tree of the Year a few years back, and sadly it fell down. 600 years old, so full of history. And now the Druids still make the long trek from one of the High Ash Farm car parks to an Anglo-Saxon cemetery, and they also, like one of the early tribes that inhabited High Ash Farm, the Iceni, they worshipped the environment, rather, or the creation, if you like, is the best way of putting it, rather than the creator. So they worship the seasons, and the fact is at midnight that's going to be the shortest day of the year. So the sun rises quite late in the morning and sets early in the evening, so the nights, the length of darkness at night far exceeds the daylight. So above my head are hundreds of jackdaws, few carrion crows scattered in there. No rooks, they're roosting in a different location at High Ash Farm. But the sharp-eyed magpies that sound rather like a machine gun in the background know that I'm here. I've got an old green coat over the top of my head, rug over my lap covered in leaves, so I'm camouflaged on the woodland floor, sitting on damp soil, so I've got a wet bottom, and curled up in between my legs, being very good for once, is my demented terrier Rat. This is a really important time of the year for the birds above me, and they've probably been roosting here at the farm for thousands of years. Probably way back then, a lot of this was forested, woodland all over the farm, and gradually, 2,000 years ago, so when the Romans came to Caister in AD 43, a great deal of the timber was felled, and again in the Industrial Revolution, when we needed charcoal and wood for timbers, for houses, much of the mature woodland was probably felled, but there's still a good proportion of woodland here at High Ash Farm, very unusual for a Norfolk farm. But why are the corvids here? Well, they're gregarious. They love roosting together, feeding together, and particularly with jackdaws and with rooks. They nest together as well. Jackdaws in kind of loose colonies, in hollow trees, sometimes 3 or 4 nests close together, and the rooks in those traditional rookeries, so they spend a lot of time together. And normally they roost en masse on the farm down at Fox's Grove, which is on the west side of High Ash Farm. But not so this year, and I have noticed a lot of rooks, sort of very solitary and looking very poorly, so I'm suspecting that's going to be an early outbreak of bird flu, avian influenza. But there's another batch of jackdaws just come in behind me, and the noise is almost deafening, and they're all communicating about what they've been doing during the day. And then all of a sudden it goes quiet for a few seconds. If I move my head round too rapidly, I think they spot me down here. but rats completely covered. I can just see an ear sticking out under the blanket. It's dark green on my lap, so he's camouflaged underneath there, and he's probably nice and warm. He's just listening to me talking. Oh, jackdaw and a magpie really close now. Listen to that machine gun sound. And one right above my head, only about 20 feet away, just cursing and swearing away. They've got quite good eyesight, and bearing in mind it's almost pitch black. So down on the ground here with the leaves, oh wow, that's as close as you'll get to a magpie. 15 feet now. It's crept down through the canopy, and it's sort of swaying from one side to another, trying to get a better look at whatever's making this noise down on the woodland floor. Going back to the Iceni and then the Saxons, there's an Anglo-Saxon cemetery on the west side of High Ash Farm. You can walk right past it, and the Saxons cremated their dead and put their remains in burial urns, and it's on top of quite a large hill, again, which is unusual for Norfolk, and the urns were buried with their necks open to the environment so the spirits could come out and carry on their trade in the afterlife. But certainly the seasons were worshipped, and one of the beautiful Iceni coins I have at the farm, I found when I was chopping out sugar beet, has the moon crescents all the way around the periphery of the tiny coin, not much larger than your little fingernail, and it's in silver. And then in the centre of the coin, something really important to them, food. 3 beautiful ears of wheat stamped out on that coin, and that's from over 2,000 years ago. And that's why I'm kind of fascinated with the history. As I get on in years now, I'm now 76 years old. You're not going to be here forever, so I'm certainly over halfway. And I look back in time and realise that there were generations and generations of people that lived close to where I'm sitting on this woodland floor now. And it's kind of a shared history, and you kind of make way for the next generation, as these birds will do. They all have quite short lives. And above me, bang over the top of my head, 2 perfectly silhouetted jackdaws. Tiny bit of light left in the sky. Absolutely beautiful. And the tree I'm leaning on, it's got a very large black orb in the top of it, and that's an old magpie's nest. So there we are, a little taster of midwinter, the shortest day of the year at High Ash Farm. I'm just going to be quiet for a minute, and I'll say goodbye now from myself and Rat, and just listen to the jackdaws as they finish off their evening chorus. Beautiful sound.